Hello everyone, in this video we are going to cover the topic of home insurance. I'm calling it Homeowners Insurance 101. I am going to break down home insurance. I'm going to go through most every coverage. I'm going to explain what that coverage is, why you need it, why it's important, and then give our recommendation as to how much coverage you actually need. So if you're new to homeowners insurance, if you're just buying a home and you want to make sure that you get the best policy to protect your large investment, this is a video for you. Stick around until the end. All right, so let's get started here. Our first coverage that we are going to talk about is dwelling coverage. That's the first coverage that you're always going to see listed on the declarations page. The declarations page is the page that gives a brief overview of all the coverage that you have. So dwelling coverage on your homeowner's insurance policy is the coverage that helps pay for the rebuilding or replacement of damage to the actual structure of your home. What does that actually mean? So you have your home, the actual structure of your home, the roof, the walls, the ceiling, the carpet, everything that's permanently attached to the home, that falls under dwelling coverage. That's going to be the largest coverage more often than not on your declarations page. How do we calculate that? Let me hide that here. So we calculate that by running an RCE, or a replacement cost estimator. So when you call in to an insurance company or to an insurance broker and you're getting a quote on your homeowner's insurance, they are going to ask you, or hopefully they're going to ask you, a number of questions in regards to your home. How big is it? What is the roof made out of? Do you have carpet? Do you have tile? How many bathrooms? How many bedrooms? They take all of that information and they put it into a replacement cost estimator. And then that estimator kicks back a number and says, in the event that this house were to burn down completely to the ground, this is how much it would cost to rebuild your home. And then that's what they are going to recommend you insure your dwelling coverage at. So it's not something that you have to guess at. And so it's not something where we can give you a recommendation, because obviously every house is different. Every house is going to cost a different amount to completely rebuild it in the event of a total loss. But that is how you estimate or figure out how much coverage you need for your dwelling. Make sure when you talk to the insurance company, you give them all the information about your house so that that replacement cost estimator can be correct. But that is the dwelling coverage. That's the first coverage. I'll move myself over here. And we are going to, now we jumped ahead. We're going to go back to other structures coverage. So other structures coverage is very similar to dwelling coverage. Really, the only difference is we are talking about physical structures that are on your property, but they are not directly attached to your actual home or dwelling. So you can see here, here's your normal home. Dwelling coverage covers that. For anything that is detached, like a shed, a shop, a detached garage, things to that nature, that would fall under the other structures coverage. That comes as a percentage of the dwelling coverage. So let's just say, for example, the dwelling coverage is $500,000. The other structures generally comes at 10 to 20% of that $500,000. So let's just make numbers easy. I'm not good at math. Let's say your home is $500,000. And on your policy, you get 10% other structures coverage. So you would have $50,000 in coverage for other structures. Now, most people don't have a lot of other structures on their property, so you can feel confident or comfortable with just taking the percentage that is automatically given to you on your homeowner's insurance policy. However, if you have a huge garage or a huge shop or things to that nature, you can bump that percentage up to make sure that you get the correct coverage. So again, this goes back to just talking to an independent broker that makes sure they get all the information and then finds you the right policy. Make sure you give them all that information. So if you have, again, a huge shed or a huge shop or a huge garage that is detached from your actual home, you need to let your insurance company know or insurance broker know so that they can give you the correct coverage. So let's move on here. Again, I'll move myself over here. We are talking about personal property coverage. So we talked about the dwelling over here, other structures over here. Now personal property, This is all of your stuff, all of your personal things that live inside your house, such as furniture, clothing, electronics, things to that nature. That's what personal property coverage covers. Again, this comes as a percentage of the dwelling coverage. That's why we started with dwelling coverage, because that's kind of the number that then is going to filter out and give us the coverage amount for the rest of these coverages that we're talking about. Usually, personal property coverage will come around 20% to 30% of your dwelling coverage. Like we talked about in other structures, most of the time you can just take that percentage and that coverage is going to be just fine. However, if you have a lot of personal property, if you have expensive things, talk to your insurance broker or insurance company and let them know those things you have so that they can bump that coverage up and give you enough coverage. Now, if you see down here, I say check for special limits of liability. What does that mean? There are certain things on certain insurance policies where even if, let's just say you have $200,000 in personal property coverage, but let's say you have a piece of jewelry that is worth $10,000. Well, jewelry on most every homeowner's policy has a special limit of liability. And regardless of the personal property coverage amount, that $200,000 that we talked about, they're only going to pay up to $5,000 for all jewelry. If it's broken, if it's damaged in a covered claim, if it's stolen, it doesn't matter that you have that $200,000 of personal property coverage. They're only going to give you $5,000 for that $20,000 piece of jewelry. That's what I mean by special limits of liability. Things like jewelry, guns, collectibles. I think there's more. Each policy is different. But if you have any high value items, you want to make sure that you're going to get full replacement costs for them or full value for them if something were to happen. So don't assume just because you have the personal property coverage that all your stuff is going to be covered to the full amount you need it covered for. Again, if you have high value items, talk to your insurance company or insurance broker, let them know, and they'll say one of two things. You're good. There's no special limits of liability there. You don't need to do anything. Or they'll say, I'm glad you told me. For this specific thing, we need to specifically list it on your homeowner's policy. And by doing that, you will get full value if something happens to it. So that's what personal property coverage is. It's covering all of your stuff. Let's move on here to loss of use coverage. This is a coverage that most people don't think about. Most people probably don't even know that they have, but in the event that they need to use it, they are very grateful that they have it. So loss of use coverage helps pay for expenses that are due to you being displaced from your home because of a covered accident or claim. And I have covered there underlined and bolded, and that is because, well, first let me explain this coverage. So this coverage, let's say, as you can see here in the graphic, let's say your home catches on fire and you file a claim, and while your home is being repaired, obviously you can't live there. So loss of use coverage will help pay for things like hotels, for meals because you don't have a kitchen to prepare those meals in, things to that nature. Loss of use coverage will cover. So they'll put you up in a hotel while your home is being fixed. But I say covered because you can't just say, oh, this and this happened to our house. I'm not filing a claim, but I want loss of use coverage to pay for me to go to a hotel. No, it has to be a covered accident. It has to be a claim that you actually filed with the insurance company, and the insurance company is helping you repair your home. In that case, loss of use coverage kicks in, and they will help pay for you to have these things like moving into a hotel. Again, you're finding a common theme here. Our recommendation, well, this coverage comes as a percentage of the dwelling coverage. For most all cases, you don't need to do anything with this percentage. The percentage is going to be enough. However, if there are certain circumstances where you think you would need more loss of use coverage, talk with your insurance company, your insurance broker, and they will bump that coverage up if needed and if available. Let's move on here to personal liability coverage. This is a huge coverage. This is probably the second most, if not the first important coverage. But if it's not the first, it's definitely the second behind dwelling coverage. Personal liability coverage. Not many people talk about this. Again, many people probably don't know they have this coverage, but this helps cover you against lawsuits that are brought against you. Let's talk about that. I have an example here. Let's say you're having a party at your house or a get together. There's lots of people over. And let's say you've been negligent. You have an old rotten wooden deck that you have not kept up on. And it's not safe for people to be walking on it. But yet here you are having this get together and somebody is walking very quickly along your wood deck and there's a plank sticking up and they trip on it and they fall and they break their leg. Okay, they're not happy with you because you left your wood deck in this environment or in this position. So what they do is they say, hey, I had to go get surgery. I had to be rushed to the hospital via ambulance. That costs a lot of money. I don't want to pay for that out of pocket because it's your fault that you did not maintain your wood deck. So they sue you, and rightfully so, because you were negligent. Luckily, if you have personal liability coverage on your homeowner's policy, your homeowner's insurance is going to come in. They're going to help protect you, defend you, and if needed, because you were negligent, if the judge finds that you were negligent, this coverage helps pay for that lawsuit so that you are not paying anything out of pocket. Instead, your insurance company is going to do that for you. There are a number, I could list dozens and dozens and dozens of scenarios of what could happen on your property and why you could be sued. It's limitless, the number of reasons why you could be sued. And so that's why I say this coverage is very, very important. You can go as low as $100,000 on this coverage. Do not do that. You want to go to, you can see down here, our recommendation is $500,000. And here's the crazy thing, to bump it up from $100,000 to $500,000, we're talking very, very minimum premiums. It's probably only going to add $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 a month to your premium to bump that up from $100,000 to $500,000. And then on top of that, we recommend a $1 million umbrella. And what that is, we have lots of videos about umbrellas. You can check them out. But essentially, that's giving you an additional $1 million in coverage on top of the $500,000 that we recommend. Again, the number of reasons why you could be sued are limitless. And the number of people that love to sue people nowadays is limitless as well. So you really need to protect yourself in the event that something does happen. All right, let's talk now about medical payments coverage. So medical payments coverage can help pay for the medical bills of people who are injured on your property, regardless of who is at fault. So with personal liability coverage, obviously nobody can sue you if you were not negligent, if you were not liable. They have no standing to sue you. The judge is going to throw it out. It's not going to work. So that does not protect or help you if you're not at fault. However, sometimes accidents just occur on your property and it's not your fault. You're not negligent. You still may need or want coverage to help pay for those medical injuries. That's where medical payments coverage kicks in and helps protect you. So we recommend at least $500,000. This coverage is not nearly as important as liability coverage, but it's still very important. You can get it in increments of usually $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, sometimes up to $50,000, but you at least want to get $5,000 in coverage. All right, so I believe this is our last coverage, water backup coverage. This one is huge. Not many people get it. Not many insurance companies recommend it. Not many insurance brokers recommend it, but we offer it and include it on all homeowners policies because it's very, very important. This coverage helps pay for damage done by water that has backed up through your sewer, sub pump, drains, or other similar means. And here in parentheses, I say not flood. What do I mean by this? I mean an actual flood, surface water coming into your home from outside. So it rains so much that water is coming from outside into your home. That's a flood. That is not covered. That's not what we're talking about. For flood insurance, you need a completely separate policy. This is for water, again, that has backed up through your sewer, sub pump, drains, other similar means. Here's an example you can see here in this graphic. The bathtub backed up, overflowed, water is coming out, and that water is going to cause damage. If you do not have water backup coverage on your policy, your claim may be denied by your homeowner's insurance company. You need water backup coverage for scenarios like this. You don't want water damage and to have it be denied by your insurance company, so get this coverage. Our recommendation is at least $10,000. Honestly, this coverage is not that expensive. $10,000 is the minimum. I would say bump it up to $50,000 to give yourself that type of coverage. All right, and that is it. There are obviously more coverage options on homeowners policies, but these are the main ones, the ones that you need to be aware of when you're searching for homeowners insurance. I say this in almost every video, but each company is different and each state is different. So although I'm giving you a general broad overview, which is good because now you know more than the average person, more than the average American, you still need to do your due diligence when you go out and get quotes. Talk to the insurance company, talk to the insurance broker, ask questions, tell them what you're most concerned about having coverage for. Listen to the insurance broker, allow them to educate you and help you, and take their recommendations so that you can make sure you're fully covered. You can do this by using an independent agent. Independent agents have the ability to work with a number of different companies. In other words, they're not going to try to put you in a box. They will listen to what you need, figure out your specific situation, and then they can go and find the right policy for you with the best price for you as well. Going back to one of my first points, never assume that you're covered for anything. Don't assume that, oh yeah, I called or went online and found this policy and it was a great price and I'm covered for everything. No, never assume that you're covered for anything. Again, if there's something specific or concerns that you have and want to make sure you're covered for, make sure you ask your broker or insurance company. And then last, make sure you find an insurance broker that is willing to actually sit down and talk with you and go over these things with you and make sure that you understand what it is you are paying for. There is nothing worse than paying for insurance, thinking you're going to be covered when something happens, and then something happens and you're not covered. No worse feeling, because you just paid your premiums for the past 5 years thinking that when something happens, you're covered, and now you're not covered. So you just threw away that money for the past 5 years. So work with a broker who can help you, educate you, take the time to make sure that you have the coverage that you need. So there you go, guys. That is Homeowners Insurance 101. Now you're educated. There is obviously a lot more detail where we can go into. If you go to our website or to other YouTube videos, we actually, every coverage we talked about, we have a video that we break down the coverage in a lot more detail to give you a better understanding. So again, this is just your general overview. We have a lot more resources for you to dive even deeper and completely understand every single coverage on your homeowner's insurance policy. And of course, if you have questions, put them below. Let us know. Our whole goal is to educate you and answer the questions that you have. So put them below, let us know. We will make a video and make sure you see that video so that you can be educated. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.